Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. So today I've got a collection of absolutely essential tips that you should use to create an engaged, thriving community on Discord. Plus, I'm going to share bonus insights, examples, and practical steps for each tip to help you use them as easily and effectively as possible. So let's jump in. Now, I'm going to break this down into sections, and our first section are tips that relate to setting up the foundation of your community. And the first tip is to define your community's purpose. Now, before you do anything, get super clear on what your community is about. Is it for developers, gamers, artists, entrepreneurs, or something else? Write a mission statement and share it in your welcome channel. A clear purpose really helps attract the right members and sets expectations for everyone involved. For example, if your community is focused on a software project or product, be clear that the community is there to provide support, share news, gather user feedback, and more. Now, our next tip is to create a server onboarding experience. Make joining your server an event. Use a welcome or start here channel with clear instructions and friendly messages to get people up and running. You can include a frequently asked questions section, a brief video walkthrough, and links to key channels. For extra engagement, add a "How did you find us?" poll to the welcome message to spark initial conversations. Our next tip is to use channels wisely. Organize your server into categories like announcements, general chat, or resources. Too many channels can way overwhelm members, so keep it super streamlined. For larger servers, consider adding subcategories for specific interests or projects such as tech discussions, product feedback, or event planning. Regularly review your channel list and merge or archive underused ones to keep things nice and tidy. And real quick, before we get onto our next tip, if you're new around here, my name is Jono and I've helped hundreds of companies and thousands of people build thriving online communities and engagement with less hassle and better results. All right, so our next tip is to set clear rules. Create a rules channel with guidelines for behavior. You can use bots like MEE6 to enforce rules automatically and to keep things civil. Now, be sure to include a message about mutual respect and kindness to foster a positive atmosphere. For example, outline consequences of spamming or trolling, or highlight your zero tolerance policy when it comes to harassment. This is essential. We want to create a place that is safe, is welcoming, and is a ton of fun as well. Our next tip is to craft a killer server banner. First impressions really matter, and a visually appealing server banner sets the tone for your community. You can use tools like Canva, which I love, or you can use Photoshop to create graphics that reflect your community's vibe. A professional-looking banner can also help your server stand out in search results and attract new members. Oh, and if you've got the artistic talent of a rubber hammer like me, ask a community member to make this banner, or you can hire someone on Fiverr to make one too. Now, our next section is about driving active engagement, and our first tip here is to host regular events. So weekly game nights, Q&A sessions, or themed chats keep members engaged, and you can use Discord's event feature to schedule and promote them. Don't forget to send reminders a day before and just before the event begins so people show up. And events like office hours, deep dives, Q&As, or social hangouts can really build bonds in your community. Now, our next tip is to use polls to gather feedback. You want to know what your community thinks? Well, you can use bots like Pollbot to create polls to engage your members, and these can be super insightful. Polls can also spark discussions and help guide the direction of your community's activities. For example, ask, what theme should our next event have? Or what channel do you visit the most? Our next tip is to celebrate member milestones. Give shout-outs for achievements like anniversaries, contributions, or fun facts. It builds a real sense of belonging. You could even create a special Wall of Fame channel to highlight these special moments permanently. Use bots like Tatsu to automate milestone recognition, and give rewards like custom roles or badges to your community members. Now, our next tip is to introduce icebreakers in your community. You can use your introductions channel with prompts like, what's a quirky fact about you or a skill that you've got? Or post a picture of your desk, and this can really help members to connect and engage with each other. Now, you should periodically refresh these prompts to keep things lively and encourage participation from both new and existing members. And try hosting weekly icebreaker contests with small prizes to get more engagement. Our next tip is to encourage user-generated content. So create channels for contributions, feedback, memes, or projects, and highlight and share outstanding contributions. Consider running contests with small prizes to encourage even more creativity and participation. For example, hold a Fan Friday competition or Best Meme of the Month challenge. There's all kinds of fun things that you can do. Now, our next section of tips relate to building relationships in your community. And the first tip here is to be present as a leader. Make sure you regularly engage in conversations. Your activity sets the tone and encourages others to participate. Share personal stories, ask questions, and show genuine interest in what your members are sharing. For example, you could host office hours where members can ask you anything. The next tip here is to create dedicated roles. Assign roles like moderator, event host, or community star. This builds hierarchy and really helps members to feel valued. You can also use roles to create teams or interest groups such as developers or musicians or runners. Adding a unique flair to roles like custom colors can really make them stand out and be more desirable. Oh, and by the way, if you're finding this video helpful, it would mean the world to me if you'd throw a like on it, and it would mean even more of the world to me if you subscribe to the channel. Now, our next tip is to start small group chats. Now, it can be enormously helpful to break larger communities down into smaller focus groups for teams or projects or hobbies, and it encourages much deeper levels of connection. Small groups can also act as incubators for new ideas and collaborations within your community. For example, you could create a beta testers group to gather feedback on server changes. The next tip is to use reaction roles. Let members assign themselves roles based upon their interests. It's a simple way to foster interaction, and reaction roles can also help members quickly find others who share their passions. For example, you could set up roles for movie buffs or tech geeks or people who use a particular version of your software. Now, our next tip is super important. That is to have an open door policy. Encourage feedback and suggestions from your community in a feedback channel and show you're listening by acting on the good ideas in that channel. Host monthly town halls to discuss updates and give members a chance to voice their thoughts directly. You can also use this channel to run polls or solicit ideas for new events. Now, our next section is all about keeping the energy alive inside of your community. And a lot of communities really struggle with this. And the first tip here might sound a bit silly, but it has a huge impact, and that is to create seasonal themes. So decorate your server with seasonal emojis, banners, and events to keep things fresh. For example, you could host a Halloween costume contest or a winter holiday giveaway. Or you could have channel themes such as spooky season or summer vibes to match the mood. It's amazing how much this can have an impact. Our next tip is to gamify engagement. You can use bots such as Arcane to reward activity with experience points and level ups. People love this kind of competition. You can add leaderboards and reward top participants with unique roles or perks. For example, the top 3 most active members of the month could earn exclusive Discord Nitro perks or custom emojis. Now, before I get into our final set of tips, if you want to significantly increase the consistency and engagement in your Discord community and in your community more broadly, you should absolutely check out our Community Leadership Core. We're kind of like a personal trainer for building communities, helping you to figure out what work has the biggest impact, helping you to dial in that work to be the best it can be, and holding you accountable to get consistent results. Check out the link down there to find out more. Now, our next tip here is to pin important messages. So keep crucial information like event details or community highlights pinned for easy access, and rotate these pinned messages to feature current events or popular conversations. This ensures that everyone in your community is regularly in the loop with what's going on. Now, our next tip is to rotate channel topics. So switch up topics in your general chat channel or create temporary channels for trending topics. This keeps conversations dynamic and prevents your server from feeling a bit stale. For example, if you've got a community focused on a software product or project, then you could have a week dedicated to discussing the latest release of your software. Okay, our next tip is to make announcements personal. So skip the generic announcements, they're boring. Add a personal touch to your updates to make them feel much more engaging, and you can use emojis, images, or videos to make announcements really stand out. So share behind-the-scenes updates of what you've been doing and what's been going on to make your members feel included in the server's growth. All right, so our next section of tips here is about leveraging bots and tools, and this is huge in the Discord world because Discord has got so much power under the hood that you can use to automate. Now, our first tip in this section is to use welcome bots. So bots like MEE6 or CarlBot can greet new members with personalized messages and direct them to key channels. And you can add a fun twist here by including a unique message for each new member. For example, you could say, "Welcome to the crew, name, grab a role and introduce yourself." Now, our next tip here is to automate moderation. So set up bots to handle spam and enforce the rules. This keeps your community safer and drama-free, and you can customize your bot settings to match the specific needs of your service. Now, advanced bots like Dino can also auto-mute or warn users based on the behavior that you specify. But your community shouldn't be all work and no play, so the next tip is to enable fun bots. So add bots like TriviaBot or Dank Memer to lighten the mood and keep members entertained. Introduce bot games or mini challenges to keep everybody engaged. For example, TriviaBot can host weekly trivia nights with topics chosen by your members. Now, our next tip is to integrate third-party tools. Now, you can link Discord with tools such as Patreon, Twitch, or YouTube, where you can have exclusive perks and content integration. And this is especially helpful for creators and streamers looking to connect with their audiences on a much deeper level. You could offer supporter-only roles for those who link their accounts and use these tools. Now, our next tip is absolutely critical, and this is that you track your metrics. So you can use bots like StatBot to monitor activity and engagement trends, and this data really helps to plan better content and run better events. Now, share these insights with your members to celebrate growth and future goals together. For example, you could say, "We've grown by 25% this month. Thank you, everybody." This is awesome. It builds the positivity in the community. Now, our final section of tips here is about creating a culture, and this is absolutely essential to keep people coming back to your community. And our first tip here might seem blindingly obvious, but it's important, and that is to be inclusive. Make your community welcoming to everybody and use inclusive language and create spaces where everybody can spend time together, okay? And make sure you deal with bad behavior when it comes to inclusion promptly and quickly, because we don't want any of that inside of our communities. Now, our next tip is to set up mentorship programs. This is where you pair new members with veterans to foster learning and collaboration. And I've seen this have a huge impact in many, many communities. And you can also create dedicated channels where mentors and mentees can get together and share those experiences. And you could even host mentorship events where experienced members can share tips and tutorials. Our next tip is to celebrate wins together. Whether it's reaching 1,000 members or just somebody's personal achievement, share the joy. Host community-wide celebrations or recognition events to highlight these milestones. For example, a 1,000 members party with giveaways and games can create lasting memories. Now, our next tip is to use emojis and reactions. So custom emojis and reactions really add a lot of personality and make interactions more fun in a community. Encourage members to create their own emojis to reflect the unique culture of your community. And reactions can also be used to vote or express quick feedback in a playful way. And our final tip is to have a clear vision. Remind members of the community's purpose regularly. A shared vision keeps everyone aligned and motivated, and revisit and refine this vision as your community continues to grow and evolve. For example, share a State of the Community update every quarter where you walk through all of the amazing things that you've been doing. All right, friends, so there you have it, a whole bunch of Discord tips and tricks. But here's the thing. Do you know the best way to get people into your Discord? It's through social media. But the problem with social media is it takes a whole bunch of time to create social media content and put it out there. But if you check out this video over here, I'm going to walk you step by step how to create a month's worth of social media in just 2 or 3 hours. It's what I do with my social media, and it's a really powerful way of generating a whole bunch of social media really quickly. So go check out that video, and I'll see you over there.